Live on LinkedIn and YouTube, bringing you yet another episode of the Top Innovator series. This is where we dive into proven leadership ideas, game-changing strategies, and the brilliant minds behind them. My name is Joseph Martens, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest. With us today is Nitin Singhal. Nitin is the VP of Engineering at SnapLogic, a generative integration platform for digital transformation. Before that, he held tech executive roles at several industry giants, including Twitter, JP Morgan Chase, Visa, and PayPal. Nitin, it's fantastic to have you with us today.
Thank you, Joseph, and good to be here. And thank you for the introduction. And happy to have a conversation and share insights and learn from the conversation as well.
Awesome. I have a feeling we'll be learning a lot given the name of companies I've just read. My word, you've really had quite an amazing career. I would love to know, reflecting on the success that you've had, Nitin, what do you think are some of the ingredients for that success? What do you think is responsible? What are some of the tools, some of the things, some of the strategies that you've used as a leader to get you to where you are today?
I think one thing I always feel is very critical as a leader is being objective. That objectivity drives success, that, what you're chasing, what you care, what you care as person, as a human being, and what you care, and what your company is asking you to do, to achieve, very clear idea about outcomes that you want to achieve for you and for the organization that you're working for and for the people that you're responsible for. I always believed in second strategy as that, as a leader, you're always a servant leader.
Okay.
And that strategy actually builds that inclusive culture. Like it is about the person who is not the smartest person in the room, but as a leader, you are trying to bring smart people, come together as one team, collaborate, and build healthy dependencies on each other. So I feel that, whether you are an individual contributor or a leader or, whatever role you're playing, bringing these three things, like being objective, having that learning insights and bringing people together as one team is critical for success.
Great nuggets. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Let me start with the objective. Objective, and I take it there is something like being driven by facts, being driven by data in there. In the context of people, of leading people, how do you apply that? Because it's difficult to imagine something more subjective than leading people, right? How are you objective about that?
So basically, like, think about this, like people are human beings. They have aspirations, they have emotions, and they have goals for themselves, right? Which sometimes they're not very expressive about. And when you look at, as a leader, when you look at team, right? People are coming from different backgrounds, right? Some people are very expressive about themselves. Some people are very silent workers.
Yep.
And each human beings bring different skills. So you have to be very cognizant about that. Now, what is objectivity? There are two things very clear about. So one is, in any kind of transaction, when you're having with people, it has to be a learning opportunity for both parties. So when I say objective, right, when I tell people, like one thing I always tell to them, that, hey, my job is to make sure that you are absolutely marketable wherever you go. So basically, whatever you do every single day, you're adding value to yourself. Second thing is, that is my job. And then your job should be that you challenge me every single day to do a good job as a manager to retain you, right? Because that is my skill as a manager. And once you instill that culture, it leads to that person being motivated, inspired, and they try to achieve company objectives and outcomes with passion. So three things, right?
Yep.
The person is having the learning opportunity for themselves, very clear. They are driven, that inspires them to be passionate about what they do. And then they have clear outcomes that they want to achieve, and you set clear goals.
Yeah.
I'm also a fact-based person. Like, I like people to be very clear about what problems they are solving. It's not about completing the project, it is about solving the problem. So, I invite them into conversation that challenge me. When you take up a project or take up a work, challenge that, why you have to do that? What is
Hmm.
important? What problem it will solve? And then chase the solution and not just completion of the project, because many a
Yeah.
times projects are completed, problem is not solved.
Yeah.
And that
And
is
there are
being
so many.
called outcome.
Sorry. Yeah. There are so many examples for that, right? And that's the tempting focus for many technologists. I'm just going deep into the rabbit hole of whatever I'm doing here. And in the end, we haven't solved the problem, but something has been accomplished and no one is really sure what. That is such a
Exactly.
tempting trap. Yeah. There was something else I really liked the way you put this. Every day you have to add value to yourself. That's a neat focus. And for a manager to make sure that all of your team does that, that's great, right? Because I imagine they see themselves as gaining value while they're on the team. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
human growth is absolutely critical aspect for success for
Hmm.
success for a successful leader. Like, say, I'm not a manager of people, right? They're all adults in the room. They all are driven. My job is to provide them opportunity and be that multiplier. 17, 18 years back, I was introduced to a book by Liz Wiseman called Multipliers. And I
Hmm.
carry that thought every single day
Hmm.
that there are two kind of leaders. They are multipliers and they are diminishers.
Hmm.
So multiplier is that leader who tells their team that, hey, don't worry about it. It is okay if you fail. You learn from it. I'm standing behind you in case you need me, but I'm not visible. So that means I'm encouraging my team, but providing them that nudge and support as they need it. So that means that, instilling that confidence. I'm actually believing in them. And they use that confidence and my trust as a way to drive inspiration and do a good job. And chances of success is very, very high. And then again, right, you learn from your failure and try again. Then there is another leader like who says, you know what, it is too difficult. I don't want it to fail, and I will take care of it. You just stand on the side. Guess what, right? You have actually totally killed the confidence of that person, right? So, so
Totally.
I try to do a good job. I'm not perfect. I learn every single day, but my job is
Hmm.
always be that person who is sweeping obstacles from the path, and then at the same time, be able to ask questions. When somebody asked me that what is my job as a leader, I said I two things. I help people and I ask questions.
Mm.
Because
Hmm.
asking questions as a leader, not for interrogation purposes, but to get the actual purpose of the thing that we are doing, problem we are
Hmm.
solving, or the strategy that we want to adopt,
Hmm.
lies in the questions.
Yeah.
So, building that culture of conversation, healthy conversation is absolutely critical as well.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for putting the reference to multipliers in there as well. That's an excellent resource, and we've actually used that for some developmental opportunities. I think it's an excellent book.
Mhm.
You said something else at the beginning that I thought was interesting. Not to be the smartest person in the room, but to make sure you have the smartest people in the room. Now, let me ask you, in your journey when you started off, was it always like that, or were you the smartest person at some point and realized something needs to change, something needs to shift?
We all learn, right?
Mm.
As time. It's like, like if I flash back my career, 26, 27 years back, completed my engineering, right? Got
Mm-hmm.
into job, worked at different locations. I was in UK for many years, doing IBM mainframe coding, right? I come from that generation, and then building banking products, credit card products. Uh, so, there was a time when I felt that I always wanted to be in the front.
Yep.
I will be the person who will raise both hands to answer a question. I really felt that I always had answers for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I realized that, by doing that, I'm actually shutting down my own learning. Because if I'm shutting down the room by my own answers, and my limited knowledge, then I'm not learning from others, right? And somebody told me that, hey, you know, 2 ears and one mouth, right?
Yeah.
You have to spend the time proportionally, right? Listening
Yeah.
at least two-thirds of the time and speaking less, right?
Yeah.
And that was a good feedback.
Yeah.
And then I realized that power of being silent and then comprehending what many other people are saying in the room, and sometimes just staying silent because you're learning more than you're sharing, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because as you comprehend that knowledge and understand idea, and sometimes you just say, oh, you know what, I learned a lot, thank
Yeah.
you, this is something new. That opens up the conversation. People feel respected, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that is the hallmark of leader. Leader is not, as I all, and that is where I started. My mentor actually like introduced me to that book, and we started talking about the power of leader when they actually process thoughts and inputs from different people and try to bring that jigsaw puzzle together to create the multiplicative value of different people, right? So that way, okay, you know, as I listen to all these wonderful thoughts, how those all thoughts can come together and multiply for the
Yeah.
outcome that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And that is where, like, my leadership philosophy has been for last many, many years.
Yeah. Talk to me about the mentors that you had on the way. What was the advice that you were given on that journey? What stuck with you? What was some advice that you got from important people, from trusted advisors, from the people who mattered? What was some advice that was important to
I
you?
think very many things, like, you learn, right? You become a tech lead, you become a first-time manager, then you basically expand roles and responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
where your actions are going to be deciding the fate of your team as well. So
Mm-hmm.
so you learn different things. So I will. There was a many years back, almost 25, very early in my career, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was actually in India. We had one customer. Some customer visits were visiting the company office, and the CEO of the company was doing the presentation, and all of us very young engineer were in the room listening to that. So you know. One thing that the customer said that, hey, I really like the enthusiasm, the willingness to solve problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then CEO asked that, okay, what is your one feedback? What is your one observation that these guys need to improve? They said they don't ask any questions. And you know what? That then our CEO, that was way back in India, and said that, okay, you know what? I can relate that to culture, because the way we are born
Yeah.
or grown up, right? We are always told that don't ask questions from your elders,
Yeah.
and that is just in the culture.
It's in the culture. Mm-hmm.
But then I listen to that. I say, you know what? It is important that, but then I realized the leadership lesson from that person, that that person was actually encouraging all of us to come out of our shell and be fearless to ask questions. Asking question doesn't mean that we are challenging somebody.
Yeah.
Asking questions actually provoke thoughts and maybe new ideas.
Yeah.
So that is one. And then, my mentors all the way, right? One thing I really felt was the power of feedback, power of
Okay.
validation.
Mm-hmm.
So as a leader, like, we sometimes can be um, very tempted to use our own experience and instincts as a way to drive things. But that may not be true in all the situations and for all the problems. So one thing that I have learned is, how much you grow, whatever your roles are, whatever your titles are, it is okay to take feedback,
Mm.
you know, uh, from your peers, from
Yeah.
your team, from your line of management, and always a good idea to do the validation and bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
There is never, so that is one thing, like power of feedback, power
Yep.
of collaboration, power of
Yep.
validation. The
Yep.
second piece that I always use as a quote is that, sometimes we as leaders are good drivers, but we need to be good driver as well as good passenger.
Okay.
So Passenger means that, I might not be leading that initiative. I might just be a side help, helping with the navigation and nudge when needed.
Hmm.
So leaders have to do both jobs. They can lead and they can actually be the nudge behind the scene as well.
Hmm.
So, and that is what builds trust and that is what drives collaboration. People will come to
Yeah.
you because
Yeah.
they know that, it is not just about you, it is about the goal that company wants to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many,
Bringing,
I can share many examples, right?
yeah,
And like,
yeah. Bringing up feedback makes a lot of sense, and it ties in with what you said at the beginning about being objective, right? Because feedback is one way to get closer to something objective by having multiple opinions, seeing different perspectives, and all of that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Now, that was the past leadership journey, Nitin. I'd love to take a look at today. What is something where you feel like this is where your focus on leadership is at the moment? And I don't mean this in terms of the projects or the work that you have at the moment. I mean it in terms of your development as a leader. What's an area where you're putting the spotlight on at the moment and say, this is where I want to grow. This is where I see my next step forward as a leader. This is where I want to develop myself.
Great question. Means like, that growth mindset, the learning
Hmm.
mindset, that
That's it.
bringing
Yep.
that childish exuberance and curiosity
Hmm.
is every single thing, right? So, being technologists, right? Technology definitely excites us all the time,
Right.
and we are in a very exciting tech
Hmm.
revolution, right? Where how technology is going to be used and commoditized, right? At the same time, it is causing some jitters, fear factors that, okay, what does it mean for software engineer? What does it
Hmm.
mean for my job? What does it mean for people who are, um, kind of celebrated today who are writing the code? If GenAI is going to write the code, what does it mean?
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that, as part of this evolution, as part of this technology change, or this exciting things that we are doing, what is my role as a leader? How do I what message I give to my team so
Yeah.
that they stay inspired, learn new things? How do I anticipate what they will be doing 5 years from now and 10 years from now? And can I do something to prep them so that we get them out of fear and then excite them for future, right? And I'm learning, right? What I do is I talk to experts, I listen to people, I share thoughts. Like, say, for example, that, hey, if I have a team of this structure, what does it mean for 5 years from now? What will be the organization structure with agentic world, and what will be the role of a leader, right? So there is a
They're cool
chance of
questions. Really good
so basically,
questions.
like,
Mm.
we are in the evolution phase. Like, from a leader of humans, you probably are becoming leader of agents, right? Or you become
Okay.
colleagues of agents, right?
Okay.
So what does it mean to be leader of agents? Transitioning from leader of humans, right? And then, you know, every single transition become very, very different. So I think again, right, I will continue to focus on being objective, open to learning.
Mm-hmm.
Do not fear about, your own job or role.
Mm.
Fear on that, what we can solve for
Yeah.
humans, right?
Yeah.
Like, say, for example, what I'm focused on learning is how technology can be made available to the most underprivileged people,
Yeah.
and our job as leaders of people and leaders of technology
Yeah.
to be the facilitator of that. Another thing that I'm trying to learn is the technology itself and the impact of technology, like, how it is applied, what is the right, what is a good use of technology, what is a bad use of technology, you know, uh, we like, see, the future of leadership is going to be determined by how we adopt technology, how we put
Mm-hmm.
guardrails around good and bad use of technology, how we still make humans an important part of this chain, right? Humans are not going to be irrelevant. Humans are going to be playing different role. but then anticipating that different role
Yeah.
in a very exciting way and communicating that back to the people around you is what I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something there that I found really fascinating. You said one of the roles that you see is getting people out of fear and passionate for the future. And I find that fascinating in the context of technologists, right? Because very often, or it's easy to think that technologists, just by the virtue of what they do, are excited about the future. And it's not always so, right? It just means being excited about technology, but there might still be fear about the future, fear about the use or the development of technology. And it's interesting that you see that as a dimension of the role.
Oh no, 100%.
Mm.
And like, see, like, I did a blog post about, like, there was this talk about DeepSeek and how it is reducing the cost of compute in the GenAI world. And I was giving my own example of my first computer 25 years back was 512 MB hard disk,
Yeah. Okay.
and it was costing about $4,000 at that time.
Yeah.
And when I got it, it was basically a movement, not just at my home, in my neighborhood as well. People came to my home to congratulate for us for that piece of computer.
Wow.
And think about that, like that
Mhm.
512
Wow.
MB hard disk
Yeah.
was like gigantic hard disk.
Mm-hmm.
20 years from that point onwards, I carry 100 times that capacity in my pocket, and I don't even worry about if I forget it somewhere
Yeah.
from the cost perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So technology, but the number of software engineers, the adoption of technology, that has not slowed down. The technology evolution has actually created new opportunities for people.
Yeah.
So what I believe, I'm somebody who believe in mythology. I'm a relatively a religious person. I believe in some learnings that were inculcated by my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that human potential is unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we set a very low bar on our potential
Mm.
and fear for things that is actually not actually a stopper in our career journey. It is actually helping us uncover hidden potential.
Yeah.
And that is what our job as a leader is. Like, our job as leader is to inspire our teams to basically unleash their potential and embrace that technology as a challenge and learn new things to set new horizons for them.
Yeah. Love it. Very nice. And I appreciate you mentioning a religious dimension as well. It doesn't matter. It's not important to missionize anyone, but to bring that religious component into our own action is critical. Let me take a look into the future with you, Nitin. Let's assume we have a crystal ball, as foggy as it may be. If we were to talk again in a few years' time, what do you think would be different about your perspective about leadership? So what do you think is going to be your next evolution in your leadership role? And I don't mean this in terms of companies or positions or titles or so. I mean this in terms of your own development. What do you think in 3 years' time, if we have a similar conversation, what will be different, Nitin? Speculate.
I feel that it might be my agentic avatar that might be speaking to you.
Okay.
I think
Do you think this avatar is going to say anything different, or do you think the avatar will tell me?
it is yet to be seen. Like, how
We don't know, right?
There might be multiple avatars of the same person speaking at different point, right?
Yeah.
So
You can press the button. Today I'm in a good mood. Today I'm in a bad mood.
Exactly, like, and there is a little bit of telepathy with those agents that, what I'm thinking getting reflected in their actions or conversation. But again, right? So here is fast forward, right? I feel that, if I anticipate our job as a leader, I always maybe at this moment of my career and life, right? I think about human impact more than the financial goals and other things, right? I feel that our job as leader is to connect technology for human good.
Okay.
If we think objectively, not just about commercial gains or business gains, if we can actually switch gears and think about that, how technology can be used by underprivileged, how we bring societies together, how we bring more peace and harmony across continents, that will result in so much of less entropic thoughts. The health will be good. We'll need to see doctors less amount of time. Our lives will be sleeping, we'll be waking up like less stressed in the morning. And if we can use technology for that purpose, we probably would have solved the big problem, right? What is the purpose of technology if it is actually stressing people out? What is the purpose of technology if the life longevity is decreasing?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of technology if people are having not healthy blood pressures and all that, right?
Yeah.
My view is, feeling good about how technology can bring smiles on people and how they can connect the most disconnected people into the ecosystem and bring them into the mainstream. And that should be our job as leaders. And if we can make that as an objective, yes, we will still be doing things for commercial. We'll still be playing with the stock market and all that. Like, we think that we are fascinated by numbers, and that numbers, whether it is the stock exchange numbers, Nasdaqs, and all that, that will still be there. But then if we pivot our leadership towards good for human beings, we'll solve many problems.
Yeah.
And I can, right, that will result in commercial gains, and that will also bring smiles to more number of people.
Yeah. That'd be awesome, right? If we shift the way we look at technology or use it away from some of the negative ways over to the positive ones. That'd be awesome, right? Because it very often is that two-edged sword. Let me ask you a last.
Just came to mind, right? I was visiting, and one remote farmer in one of the in a village in India. I was actually traveling, and I was visiting a family back in India, and I came to see that farmer, and that farmer had a smartphone. And that farmer was using GenAI application using pictures to understand the hydration level of the crop. And in that process, that person had no dependency on third parties, and the cost of crop maintenance had decreased. That was so fascinating.
Awesome example. And that would not have been possible just a few years ago.
Exactly. Now, now, as technologists, it is creating an opportunity how we make that app or solution more precise, impactful, so that when that person takes a decision, they are not doing any damage to the crop. They're actually using it for good purpose, right? So now, because that farmer is using for something that actually drives their livelihood, I am more accountable to make that technology better.
I love the example because so much comes together there. It's not just GenAI, right? I thought of the smartphone as well, the connectivity that's in there, which also isn't such an old technology. Awesome. Let me ask you one last question, Nitin, and then we're going to land the plane. What do you think, in terms of leadership again, what do you think is something that many tech leaders are missing? Many tech leaders are not seeing it. They have a blind spot there. What is something that you would want to give them as advice? Wake up here. Here's something you need to look at.
I feel that as leaders, right? Life is a gift of the God, right? And, we sometimes actually chasing wrong metrics of our life. And if we look at in the rear mirror, we'll see that, okay, time is running out and we are chasing things that are going to be immaterial. So one thing I always tell, and I'll also say that when I have my one-on-one with my team, I'm actually like all my even my past team members know that I always start with this quote: "Hey, dude, what is your happiness meter?" Because every single conversation that you do, right, it depends upon what mood you are in. You have some family situation, you have some kid situation, right? What's the purpose of that conversation? You need to bring that person to the level play. Give that person a chance. Like, based on that, I will probably walk out, like, maybe change ambience, right? Because the purpose of conversation is not a transaction. Purpose of conversation is to get the best out of your people.
Yeah.
And that is what my guidance to leaders will be, that, okay, chase happiness. And if you make your team, make your colleagues, make your leaders happy about something, they will do a good job. You know, everything else is secondary. You know, happy people around you makes the most productive outcome.
This is an awesome headline. I can see this, put this over the article, chase happiness. I love it. That's a great summary. And it's a...
That's it, right? You know, because see, why do I, like, you know, what do we work for, right? You know, it is not about like, oh, you know what, I am superior than others, right? There is no merit in that. Like, okay, if my job as a leader can bring smile around me and people, when they see me coming, right, you know, they want to talk to me, that is the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Nitin, thank you so much. It's been great having you here, and I love the chase happiness as the motto of everything.
Thank you for the opportunity and great questions. Love to share these insights and learn from that. Thank you.
Awesome. To everyone else who's watching us, thank you so much. It's a wrap for today. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe to our channel so that you can see the next episode in the Top Innovator series again. And until then, make sure that you keep your brain cells active. We'll see you again soon.